Hi, my name is Ashley and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite reads of 2024. The 10th book on my list I read all the way back in January, so my memory of it is a little hit or miss. But that book is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This book is hilarious, especially if you like mysteries like Knives Out or Clue. It's basically a whodunit. The main character in this book is Ernie Cunningham, and he is a writer of mystery books, or more of like how to write mystery books, and he uses all of his skills and knowledge to solve a murder. This book was fantastic and it was such a fun read. I recommend that if you haven't read it, you definitely pick it up. I also read the second book, which was good, but not good enough to be on this list, and I am probably going to read the Christmas book even though it's January, just because I have it and I really enjoy his writing style. The 9th book on this list is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. It's a short story. I don't want to tell you too much about it because it is really, really short, but it's definitely what you can expect from Gillian Flynn, and I suggest you pick it up and read it. It was a 5-star read for me. The next book on this list is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Now, while I haven't read a lot of Riley Sager, this is definitely my favorite book by him. I loved everything about it. The main character was somebody that I just kind of found endearing and kooky, and that made it even more fun. This was an off-the-walls thriller to me, and while I don't always like Riley Sager's books, this one had me flipping through the pages as quickly as I could. It was another 5-star read for me, and I think it earned its way onto this list. The 7th book on this list is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This book is hysterical, and while I wouldn't classify it as a cozy mystery because it can get a little terrifying, I fell in love with Finlay Donovan in 2024. I read every single book in this series, including the newest one, and the short story, and I just couldn't get enough. While I do think that Finlay Donovan is Killing It is the best book in the entire series, it is a series that will keep you laughing and wanting to read more and more. In this first book, Finlay Donovan is a writer and a newly single mom who just can't get her stuff together. She's overheard talking about her book, and somebody misconstrues that as she might be someone you can hire to murder somebody, and the plot just thickens from there. The 6th book on my list is The Book of the Most Precious Substance. I love this book. It's by Sarah Gran. And first off, it's a book about writers, which I love books about writers. I'm a writer, so it's fun to read about that. But this book is all about a book about sex magic that the main character starts looking for, thinking it's going to, I think, solve all of her problems. This book is raw and kind of horny, and it is horny, but you would expect it to be. It's a book about sex magic. So it was just really fun to read, and I super enjoyed it. The 5th book on this list is Light from Uncommon Stars by Raika Aoki. It's about a transgender runaway who's a violinist, and she meets a violin teacher who takes her in and helps her become something better. But there's kind of a weird secret about why she takes her in. And then there's this funny little donut shop, and it had me giggling in some parts because of all the crushes, but really it's just a very unique and creative science fiction book that I fell in love with this year. The 4th best book that I read in 2024 is Chain Gang All-Stars. This book is about prisoners who are fighting their way through a gladiator style kind of arena to basically win their freedom. It's filmed like a reality show, and I fell in love with the characters in this book. I fell in love with their struggles and the things that they were going through. I loved how this book talked about prison reform, and even though like it's set in the future and it's kind of a sci-fi book, I guess, there are real takeaways in this book that are very, very important, I think, for anyone to read and for anyone to understand. It was beautifully written, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I would, if there's any book on this list that you read in 2025, I would recommend it be this one. It's very poignant, and I can't say enough good things about it. So hard to put my books 1, 2, and 3 in order, and sadly, well, I think I would have put this one higher, but I just couldn't. So at number 3, we have The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. This is a horror book for readers who want to read a horror book but don't want to read a horror book, and that's probably the closest that I can say about it because it's not a scary book, but it is a horror book. This is a book about Art Barbara, and basically him writing his memoir about a club that he was involved in called the Pallbearers Club years and years before. This is not a traditionally scary book. This is a book about life, but also nothing, but then also all about what a life can be made up of and going through memories and how that can change, and how maybe experiencing one thing for you is not what the other person experienced for that. But when you get down to the core of it, this book is about friendship, and it made me feel a little bit better about being a weird, lonely teenager. The second book on my list is How to Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone. This is a short little book about Red and Blue, two agents who are fighting against each other in a massive war. It was beautiful. I loved this book. I cried. Which I'm kind of a crier, so that's not surprising at all. They basically are writing letters to each other back and forth, even though they are on different sides of these warring factions, and what they write and what they find in each other is just exquisite. It was an insanely great find for me last year, and I definitely want to reread it this year. And my favorite book of 2024 is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. My Heart is a Chainsaw is about a girl named Jade who is obsessed with slasher movies and knows all of the rules. She's growing up in a small town in Idaho where outside of the town there was a massacre, and now kind of by where that massacre was, there are rich people moving into the town and something spooky is going on. I loved Jade. I loved her sarcasticness. I loved that she honestly just kind of was a know-it-all, but a know-it-all within her niche. And I just really, really loved following her adventures. This is also what I would say is not a typical horror book. It is definitely more of a horror book than the Pallbearers Club is. I have never really been into horror books. I've never really been into scary movies or scary books, but this was definitely my year to fall in love with the horror genre. I also read the sequel to this, Don't Fear the Reaper, and I'll be reading the third and last book in this series later this year. I really liked the second book, but not as much as My Heart is a Chainsaw. It literally stole my heart. And that's it. Those are my top books for 2024. It was a pretty good reading year for me with a lot of 5 stars to choose from, and it was kind of hard to narrow them down. I hate that I have ADHD. It's really hard for me to remember the synopsis of all of these books, but I did my best. I was really excited to share these books with you, and I'm super excited to share all of the things I read with you in 2025. Bye.